Hey guys, Brozan here. Wanted to talk to you about Maw of Mischief build. This is my favorite build by far. I really enjoy using this. I've been playing it since the Maw of Mischief helmet came out. Uh, this build focuses on buffing minion life to get large explosions and then proliferate the ignite damage out to everything else. Right off the bat, I want to get into the pros and cons of this build. So the pros of this build is it clears the entire screen in about 0.25 second channel. So very good for area clear. It's also extremely good for bossing because you can stack a shitload of defenses on this build. Some of the cons are you got to manage the minions. You got it. The minions are like little homing beacons. It's essentially like playing mines, except the minions run to stuff, but they may not run where you want them to. And you also have to seed the Herald of Purity minions. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it means you have to run a secondary minion skill so that you can start out in a map and explode something, or if you're on a boss, blow up some skeletons so that you can seed the explosion. We'll talk about that. We're going to play as we talk. That way we can cover off on some things. This build focuses on armor stacking and block for its defenses, as well as a extremely strong ability on fire mastery that gives you 2% of life back when you ignite an enemy. Because this spreads ignites, every time you push your channel, you're full life. We also take a Doriana's for that 2% elemental leech. This will also keep you capped off on higher health mobs when you're not constantly igniting. So, not going to talk a whole lot about the tree because, perfectly honest with you, the tree is going to be catered to how you feel like building the character. But I want to talk about what we want to get out of the tree. I will share my path of building. So this is a necromancer. The necromancy nodes we care about is getting bone offering on ourselves, increasing maximum life of our minions, and getting minion skill levels to increase their maximum life. One thing to note, you can run this as Elementalist and get the Shaper of Flames, which is really strong for it, as well as Heart of Destruction, which is really strong for it. I don't like doing that. It is more damage. The build right now, let me switch over so you can see my Death Wish. The build right now is around 3 million damage for our ignites. This is with about 2 exalts worth of gear. You could scale the ever-loving shit out of that. If we switched over to Shaper of Flames and Heart of Destruction, we could be pushing almost 5 million. But you lose all that block, you lose your bone barrier. To me, it's not worth it. I have run an Elementalist in the past. It's strong, but you lose on defense. In this league, you really need defense. So we've talked a little bit about the tree. We're stacking life, we're stacking block chance, we're stacking minion life. So the explosion itself, let's look at what the explosion does. So Death Wish, when you channel, when you release the channel, it causes your minions to explode. Each minion exploded adds 10% more to the hit damage and the ignite damage. So typically we like to have all 4 of our Herald of Purity explode at the same time. This makes for an extremely large explosion. You look at path of building here. Average hit, this is with no crit, nothing. it's running elemental overload, is 700,000 per minion times 4, so it's about a 2 million hit, but we're focusing on ignite. You can buff that hit through the roof. I don't like doing that. I like the ignite. So we're going to be blowing up our minions. Because of the way Herald of Purity works, it's going to resummon a minion every time we kill something or we hit a rare or unique enemy. We're going to use our skeletons on the rares and uniques to make sure we have Herald of Purities up at all the times. You always want to have at least 1 Herald of Purity in your explosions. So we're going to do some quick gameplay. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. The main things, the absolute requirements for this build: you have to have Maw of Mischief, and for mapping, you have to have Barracks Respite. Now, for bosses, you could take this ring off and use something that gives you considerably more damage. Let's talk a moment about how we scale our damage. So the big things we're scaling, this is an Ignite build. We do not get anything from spell power, so we need elemental damage, we need burning damage, we need minion levels, and because we take the minion node over here, anything that gives plus to minion damage is pure damage for us as well. So we're going to scale it on those vectors. You want to pick up Ignites deal damage faster, or Ignite multiplier, damage over time multipliers. Those are where you're going to get the most of your damage. At the very entry level of this build, you'll be doing about 1.5 million Ignite DPS. At the very top end, we can hit 8 to 9 million. Entry level is about 20 chaos to get started on. One of the items that absolutely you should get is either Magnet Eclipses or the Vix Lunaris or Solaris. They give that +2 to level of socketed gems. Get a corruption of +2 to level of socketed duration, or +1 to all gems. And we're going to link our Herald of Purity with Empower and Minion Life. The Empower obviously to give more levels, Minion Life to get them stronger. The Empower picks up levels from the shield, so ultimately we get a very high level Herald of Purity. The gems on Death Wish are going to be everything that gives Ignite more damage. So we use Swift Affliction, Burning Damage, Combustion, and Cruelty. You could swap out Combustion for other skills. I see people run Unbound Elements here. I personally like the big explosions as well, because it's nice to do 2 million damage real fast when you need it while things are burning. It helps to kill bosses a little faster if you don't put Unbound Elements here. Those are the required items. Weapon, you're going to focus on fire damage and dot multi. Amulet, you're going to pick up fire damage if you can, filling out stats. Pick up Chaos Res where you can. Dexterity requirements are pretty high on Swift Affliction, so you need to pick up Dex. The end game crafting for items is to use the Essence that gives plus minion life and buff that up very high. You can pick that up on gloves, boots, and belt. On armor, we want to pick up that increased effective offerings. That raises our block up considerably. So that's a whole lot of talking. We do use flammability on hit and wave of conviction. And those are mostly for bosses. I am lazy, so I put my barrier on left click, and I like to trigger bone offering, wave of conviction, and desecrate. That's not required, but it's how I like to do it. For auras, we're using a mishmash. Definitely have to have Herald of Purity. Determinations, best armor stacking, same with Defiance Banner. I am running Clarity because I don't have good mana regen yet. Once you have mana regen, you can drop these two off and pick up another defensive or pick up an offensive aura. As far as enchants go, I like to pick up Herald of Purity because it's cheap. You can do Determination, whatever floats your boat on enchant. So let's see what it looks like to actually run it. We're in an 81 delve here. I'm actually deep delving, or working on getting to deep delving. So we seed it with the skeletons. Now we've got our heralds up, so we're just popping stuff. I'm going a little slow because I want to show what's going on. You can see once my heralds get in the middle of stuff, I go pop, and let's speed up and show what it actually looks like in actual gameplay. I'm basically getting to packs, exploding my minions, and moving on. I'd be playing a lot more careful if these weren't level 81s. Your general go around stuff. My flask setup is awful. You don't want to use it. Use your own flask setup. I've seen people say Witchfire Brew is good with this. I don't like it. Flammability is already being set up on everything.
When I'm ready, and
so
not before.
I think Witchfire Brew is kind of a waste. You can see there I screwed up and blew up all my Herald of Purities, so I had to reseed with my skeletons. Your skeleton explosions are so much smaller than your heralds. Now let's go look at this in a map real fast. So you can see the general gameplay is seed with the skeletons, get up some heralds, and then run and explode your minions. That's basically all the buttons I'm pushing. Travel skills are up to you. I'm using a cast when damage taken setup. One of the really cool things about this build is you don't need a 6-link at all. All your damage is coming from these 2 items. So let's pop a map. That one will take a little bit of damage in, but let's go ahead and run it. This is where it really shines, is when you can clear entire screens and 2 screens over with the... I apologize, I'm playing on a potato of a computer, so it's kind of awful. I'm trying to water the hamster right now. So we're going to seed. As soon as we seed, then we can pop our Sentinel. Watch the screen disappear.
Oh.
You can see this build is extremely forgiving. Someone who actually played well could do amazing things with this.